Well, I've already done 2 debates, and they, were good. But to do a third one, everybody's voting now, and it's very late to be doing a third debate. But once the election starts, and it started, it's a very bad thing to be doing a debate in the middle of the vote counting. And this would really be late into the election. So I think it would be a very bad thing. I think it would actually be a bad thing for the country.
So former President Donald Trump believes the third debate would come too late, but Vice President Kamala Harris already agreed to a CNN debate on October 23rd, another friendly media outlet. So joining us now is RNC spokesperson Elizabeth Pipko. So I want to ask you, why not just have the third debate here on Fox?
That's a question you're going to have to ask Kamala Harris, right, who initially bowed out when Donald Trump came out and asked for those debates. Look, both these candidates are allowed to speak to the American people however way they think is best for them and their campaigns. I think Donald Trump does a much better job of that. That's one of the reasons I support him as I do. There was quite the media frenzy around that last debate, and I think Donald Trump proves time and time again that he does want to speak to the American people the best way that he can. I don't think that debate showed that. I don't think they gave him the opportunity to be the candidate that the American people deserve. I think Kamala Harris and him were treated very differently. I know a good chunk of the American people agree with me on that, and I think it's up to both candidates to decide how they want to talk to the American people, because that's who we should be talking to and working for as we lead up to November 5th.
Yeah, so Elizabeth, and MSNBC host Stephanie Ruhle defending Harris's avoidance of policy questions up to now. Listen to this.
I just said I'm not going to vote for her.
Kamala Harris is not running for perfect. We have 2 choices. And so there are some things you might not know her answer to.
I don't think it's a lot to ask her to sit down for a real interview as opposed to a puff piece in which she describes like her feelings of growing up in Oakland with nice lawns.
Then I would just say to that, when you move to Nirvana, give me your real estate broker's number and I'll be your next door neighbor. We don't live there.
So, but, truly, do Americans deserve to have either moderators who will be fair to fact-check both candidates or a journalist who will actually ask real questions of the vice president?
They do. Look, the most important thing I can say here is the American people deserve so much more than they've been getting, right? I don't appreciate the response in the mainstream media when it comes to covering up for Kamala Harris. I don't appreciate Kamala Harris believing that she is owed these votes in November and doesn't owe the American people any kind of explanation. Let's not forget, she's not just running for president. She's currently the vice president of the United States. She's currently in the White House. She's currently responsible for our country, for our prosperity, for our safety. The fact that any of us are wondering if it's okay or not, that we don't know where she stands on any issue, is a major problem, not just for November 5th and for the future, but for where we stand right now.
Right, and Elizabeth, I want to get this in here. This is what Harris campaign deputy manager had to say about Trump accepting a third debate. Listen to this.
We see no reason why Donald Trump shouldn't accept this. In fact, he claims that he won the previous debate that we had earlier this month. He obviously did very well at the CNN debate over the summer. He has praised their ratings. He praised their format. He praised the moderators. And so, again, I hope that Donald Trump finds whatever courage he has left to accept this debate with the vice president before the American people make the decision about who is going to represent this country in their future moving forward.
Yeah, so we only have about 30 seconds left. Courage. I mean, just Donald Trump, courage? What do you think about that?
I definitely wouldn't say Donald Trump lacks courage, but what I will say is luckily November 5th is not up to Kamala Harris as a spokesperson. It's not up to me. It's not up to you, right? It is up to the American people alone, and that's why Donald Trump chooses to speak to them each and every single day, unlike Kamala Harris, our current vice president.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate it. The former president always also welcome to do an interview on this show. Appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you.